Welcome back to another episode of Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have the premier underground mining contractor of North America, or certainly one of the premier contractors, is DMC Mining Services. We have Michal Jezioro. He's the CEO. Michal, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to have this conversation.
Yeah, it is really nice to have you on. And you and I haven't had a chance to discuss much. Some guests I know fairly well coming on the show, but you were booked through one of my producers, so this is kind of one of our first kind of full conversations together. Can you just give me a little? How long have you had the title of CEO for DMC?
Well, I've been here in Canada for last 4 years, and I started as the CEO of DMC. But I've been working within the KGGM group, that is the bigger corporation that owns DMC, for 17 years, roughly.
Oh, wow.
In different positions. But I must say that the contracting world was new to me. I was in leading positions within the group in different entities in different parts of the world, including spending 7 years in China, including being 2 years in the board of entire group, and before dealing with copper and copper cathodes, copper concentrates, and wire rods, and in Southern Europe before the time of China. So I'm an experienced manager in the mining world. But mining construction and mining services is something relatively new for me. So I'm trying to find out the ways where we can have a fresh view on things that are important for the client. So I come from the client side. I understand the client quite well, and clients' needs and a way of thinking, say.
Right, because you actually worked on that other side in a lot of cases.
Yes, and it's helpful. I would say this is helpful a lot.
Did you? Let's get into DMC. Something that stood out, of course, right away to me is their slogan, which is "Building Tomorrow's Mines," which is actually somewhat similar to some of the write-ups that we do about what mining now represents. Talking about the mines of today, mining of today that'll create the mines of tomorrow. Can you just walk us through sort of what that actually means, though, to DMC Mining, that building the mines of tomorrow?
I would say it's a little bit special. So we have proven to be innovative and be adventurous enough to take innovations to the level of execution, skipping several stages of development, like going straight to execution with the machines that were not proven and not known before, which is pretty unique for our business. Generally, mining business is pretty conservative. Miners prefer to have their own methods and ways to do things, and it's understandable. It comes mainly from safety. It also comes from the challenge about capex and estimation of cost versus potential savings with new technologies, but unknown outcomes. So when the boards accept projects, they usually prefer to know how much they pay, and they still know that they will pay more finally on the end, but they prefer to have it in the realm of expectation and an understanding, instead of having new technologies that are unproven and promise something, but nobody really knows if they are going to deliver. We've done a couple of times where we came with something new, and it actually paid off for us. There's always difficult on the beginning, but then you're a pioneer in certain method, and you can apply it to different places and different projects. Obviously, if you're successful with your first trial. For us, it was the SBR machine for shaft sinking, but not only that. There were several innovations and improvements that DMC was working for last 30 years and implementing them successfully. Obviously, the key to success is not only that; it's the performance of our people, our teams, and our engineering, and the reliability from given to our clients. Let's call it like that. But if you ask about building tomorrow's mines, means that we are trying to be innovative and build these mines to the newer standards and highest possible quality within certain time frame and budget that is given us by clients.
When you say innovative, when you're presenting though, when you're submitting the contract, if you've got something that it hasn't been used at another location, or it's only been used once, and hasn't been around 20 years, is that also a challenge though when you're, I mean, you DMC does some major projects. So is there another level of sort of care that you have to give in the presentation of what you're going to do, or how does that work when you're going to bring an innovative solution onto an operator's site?
Well, I'll be completely honest on that. So this innovation and DMC being a pioneer in things that we started doesn't mean really like a complete naive going into every innovation that is on the market
Right.
and trying to do things every time new, failing 9 times and maybe 1 time will be okay, right? This is not how it works in mining industry. It just can't. The innovation can be add on top of a very good base profile of skills. And the skill set that DMC has covers all the traditional methods. And the innovation is just on top of that. And it cannot be different. Like it's not that our competition is not innovative. Our competition is strong and innovative as well. There are good companies, proven companies on the market. I believe strongly we are one of them. And the competition is on many levels. It's not only on innovation, right? There are industries that actually live from innovation, right? It's like these new technologies, big tech, and they just thrive of innovation. The circle is sometimes very fast, right? Like with
Came and
right.
went. Yeah.
Right, this all goes fast, right? As the innovation comes, it has to be marketed quickly, and it dies right when something new comes in this place. It doesn't work in the mining market like that, right? We basically mine with a progress of efficiency and performance, but basically with drilling and blasting since I don't know 100 years, right? So our tools improved, yes. We have new machines, yes. We have some innovation in terms of shaft sinking and in mechanical cutting, yes. But is this like groundbreaking? Well, I wouldn't say. Actually, our shaft boring road header that comes from Germany from company Herrenknecht is actually the first like big movement in terms of shaft sinking, where you take the big machine and you just drill the hole down. There is, however, something like that in tunneling industry already for quite a long time, where you use mechanized method for tunneling. Actually, all tunnels for subway stations and subways in around the world are done this way. So even that is not like as an idea. It's not really like a groundbreaking innovation, and it's not that nobody has ideas, but to introduce them, to implement them, cost enormous amount of money, enormous amount of capex, and just the owners, the shareholders, they just don't allow too much of a uncertainty in these projects, right? They're too big projects, like normal mine projects with capacity of 50 to 100,000 tons of metal, whatever it is, nickel or copper or whatever it would be, goes for billions of dollars, right? It's finishes between, depends on the mine and whenever you pass, like build a processing close to it, but it can it's hard to build a mine for lower than $1 billion, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's very typical capex for mine plus processing for go $6-7 billion. So in this amount of money and a time frame of 6-7 years, sometimes even more, there is not much place for uncertainty. That's why proven methods are still the best way to go. And still innovation, something that can help with achieving targets faster in more safe and performance-oriented way, are appreciated, but they can only be developed on top of existing solutions and
Right.
within certain environment that incentivize though to apply these innovative methods.
Yeah. No,
We
it's
were
very good
lucky
insight.
actually to have this kind of opportunity with the biggest mining corporation in the world right now. If I'm not mistaken, I think they are still number one. This is BHP, BHP Billiton. And this was a project in Saskatoon with shaft boring road header. The project was successfully finished and brought us a lot of experience. And that was actually shared also with other companies later by the producer of the machine, and I think the other companies also benefited from these experiences, also our experiences, and they brought it to another level. Is this method applicable to every shaft sinking? No, it has its limitations, definitely. The mechanical cutting was developed to a certain grade of hardness of the rock, also to certain limitation of flexibility and diameters. So it's not applicable always and to every project, but at certain circumstances, it can decrease the time of the project, also with decreasing the budget of the project, just because of limiting in time of delivery.
Well, that's what I
A
was going to
project,
actually, I was going to actually just jump in for a second and ask, is the innovation sometimes driven though, or often is it driven by the operator's demand of saying, okay, we need to accomplish this, this, and this. Do you have a solution that you're aware of that will get us there in this way?
well, this is it depends on many factors, because depends like what kind of project are you talking about? Are you talking about shaft sinking? Are you talking about lateral development, tunneling, or or some complex rehabilitation project that has several vertical raises plus development plus this and that? In all of these kind of projects, there can be used certain level of innovation, but the innovation doesn't mean in the mining industry only like inventing completely new machine, right? It actually can be a machine that exists, but certain adjustment to certain geology, or a certain adjustment to place, to size, even organization, like self-organization, like how you organize your rounds, or how you organize your shifts, and how you go with your runs, through the progress. These are all things that should be adjusted and mastered, like I would say this word, and this gives the success. So it's not just a simple answer for so-called innovation, right? It's not just inventing a new machine. It's more about mastering your skills and using your innovation for really increasing performance. So it's correlation of many factors. It's like you can have the best machine, and if your crew is not well trained for that, you will fail, right? You can have good machine, can have still skilled workers, but when your geology is not suitable for the machine, you will fail again, because it's not the right one. So you fail on the beginning of choosing your methodology and engineering the project. So well, it sounds very proud about this innovation, but there must be a lot of cold calculation behind planning and execution of projects and implementing the innovation on the project, because
Yeah.
you can actually very easily lose your time and invested money when you're too aggressive with your innovation.
Yeah, it's
To
a
be honest.
I'm really glad you actually expanded on it, because and I always am mindful that, there's going to be a lot of different people that watch, but there is a segment that's going to be, even young entrepreneurs or people that are starting to sort of build their own company, or are joining a large organization and they want to bring new ideas to it. And you have to underpin innovation with the skill sets, the proper operating systems, the targets being clear and attainable. All those things need to be underpinned of it, or the innovation actually creates chaos, which in the mining sector is a complete it's a
Yes, it's
no-go
a
zone.
no-go. Yes, it's a no-go zone. Exactly. Yes, yes.
I just wanted to quickly talk too about. Actually, I want to talk just to make sure I'm in all the right verticals that DMC is in. But I also wanted to ask quickly. You touched on people having the right people run the machines. A lot of talk. We've had people on our show that have come on saying, I need to make sure that we let people know that we're hiring because we're trying to find people. I had one gentleman on just recently that he had they're hiring 3 people at a time to hope that one shows up on Monday. That kind of stuff is going. And it's not just once, he's doing it actively. It's just part of his
Mhm.
strategy now. Has that been a challenge? I mean, I know we're going to talk about some of your global scale that you work at. What has that challenge been like? Or because you're global, are you able to draw in a lot of people from around the world that are very qualified to do these projects?
It's again very, very valid point that you're mentioning now. It's primary resource for every company like us, like all our competition. I mean, the labor, the skilled team for executing the projects. This is something that everybody cares a lot. And even competition that is much bigger than us, like acts really globally. I mean, at the same time, on every continent, we've been globally as well, but like we're not present, statically on every continent right now. Um, the the major issue, even for the big ones, is always the team, right? The hiring right people for the job. And there are a couple of strategies. This is definitely on the priority number one of DMC. This is something what we've changed a couple of years ago in comparison to the past DMC, let's say. And this works so far very well for us. Is there turnover on our in our team? Yes, there is. I would say, there is people come and go in contractor industry. Let's call it like that, right? Servicing industry. It's a common thing, but I would say in the EMC there was more turnover in supporting functions than really in these core functions, in operating functions.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and I'm actually very glad, right? Because this is all about, right? It's about mining. It's about executing the work, and we are lucky to have attracted several talents, especially young ones, and this is. This is partially, I would say, due to the culture of our company culture. Obviously, the salaries play a role, but I think nowadays everybody is competitive. Everybody pays well, and even there are companies who really, to keep people, they just take the cut and overpay just to not to lose certain amount of skill set. We were able to accommodate these talents, I believe, due to the very good atmosphere of work, to certain culture of freedom, I would call it like that. It's a freedom of make decisions by the managers with a proper supervision, with proper control, with implementation of processes. It's not chaos. It's not
Same with innovation. It's the same sort of principles.
right. So we have to have it to a certain degree, but then and obviously, freedom connects with accountability. Like if you have freedom, you have more responsibility for decisions you make. But at the same time, it seems to be almost like a refresh opening for human capital that happened in DMC, that brought us a lot of attention within the skilled labor force in a couple of regions where we were active, and attracted a lot of talent. So I'm actually very glad from the team we accommodated, and from the performance of the team that is working for DMC right now. And it's based on very, very simple and I would say conservative principles, right? Simple and conservative principles. So you have to be good to your client, you have to be reliable to your client, and you have to be honest to your client. Even if it's something that is maybe not the best as information, it's better to pass it, better to solve problems together, instead of trying to hide and have this hard client contractor relationship when both sides try to kind of fight each other and grab more piece of the cake for each other. We have a little bit different approach, and this has a better influence on our own people as well, right? Our own team members, because they have less stress in contact with the client. They, as long as they are honest, they just transferring all the message in a proper way. Also, the client can be more reliable.
Right.
Does it sometimes, prevent us from winning some work? Probably yes, right? Because if we believe that work costs $32 million and someone comes and offers it for 20, we will not go down to 20 because we know we would fail, right? And
right.
What comes next is this client either tries to recover this money that is missing between this 20 and 30 in some other ways with additional work, or whatever the ways are, or is simply failing, right? And what we generally avoid is failing. So for now, for DMC, it was always we deliver on time and on budget. And if we can't, we just take a cut, right? We just take a cut on our margin. Our promises are worth something. And if the circumstances changes, we message to the client, right? When something changes in the project, when we have troubles that were not anticipated in the contract, we openly state it up front so that we can solve this problem with the client. And so far, it was very successful strategy. Also from the culture perspective, like a corporate cultural perspective for team members, because they are less stressed in terms of connecting to the client, and they can pursue the talents also. And we have no problem with promoting young people, for example, right? When people have proven to be right fit, right choice for certain positions, it has to be a proper mix, and I believe we have people that we can all learn from, and we have people who are still advancing and learning, but already taking responsibility for delivering proper results, and they still want something, right? They are ambitious, right? They want to take the challenge, right?
It's something that's going to stand out from this interview for me is that you're talking about you referenced, if you're being honest with the client, it sort of gives that freedom to because they're just transferring information. And the one thing that I've talked about this with my team as we're building our company too, is don't confuse who you're competing against. The client and you are on the same team. You're doing different things. Your competition might be the other company that's bidding on you, and maybe they're bringing something you don't bring. So you got to sort of up your game, or, invest in new machinery or whatever that is. That's a genuine competition. Your competition is not the person that you're serving and who's paying you money. That is your ally. And never.
That is interesting. That is interesting remark, but I would add something ad vocem here. There is clients and clients, and there are clients who I would call they are its own enemy.
Right. Yes.
um,
Yeah.
you know, it's
They've
the
lost
world
sight
is
of
not
that.
that simple, right?
Yeah.
The world is not just one sided. There are, you know, all the colors between, you know, black and white. You have like variety of different colors,
Yeah.
and working with the client is not just, you know, being honest is a given thing. um, but it still doesn't mean that you don't have problems in many cases where client wants to take too much overhand over the project, right? Because client feels uh, you know, responsible, accountable, and wants to do things, you know, on his own and how he wants. But this is almost like, give a comparison. um, you're owning a house, you want to build a house, but you don't know anything about construction, right? And you go to your main construction, say like, oh, don't use a metal here. I don't like metal, is unhealthy, right? Use wood, right? But your wood will collapse with your roof if you use it. Like, no, use wood. Like, it will definitely stand because I know it, and I like wood. Is warm material. I love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these kind of problems come every time, you know, with projects, especially bigger long-term projects that are more complicated when the client is involved on a in a deeper level. These kind of discussions are always there, and there is our responsibility to have open conversation with the client. And even if it means sometimes like to go off the project, it's better to do so
Right.
and remain within the frame of your integrity and professionalism, instead of just, you know, thinking about like, you know, loss of revenue or you know, not incurred profits.
Yeah.
The profits will come from different places in a more sustainable way if you act with integrity and you're always professional. The company will, the clients will come to you with projects, right? There is
Yeah.
plenty of work everywhere. If you have proper people, you know, the work will find yourself.
Yeah.
That's my motto. We actually have now problem with recruiting more people, like growing our team to the pace of the work that we have,
Because
and
that
not actually.
reputation precedes you when you're going into and the mining industry is
It
small.
goes actually surprisingly fast. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Especially when it
Yes.
goes wrong. Um,
Oh, and when it goes wrong, it goes even faster, right?
yeah.
But I was surprised even the positive one
It
is spreading
absolutely.
relatively quick because the market is not big, right? It's very specialized, so
Right.
people
Yeah.
meet and talk. So the good reputation or a change from, you know, bad to better goes relatively fast. I
Yeah.
was surprised how quickly DMC could, you
Well, there's such
know.
a demand. There's such a demand for excellence within the industry, and there's so much scrutiny from a government level and a local level. You know, if you're talking about the U.S. and Canada, indigenous communities, there's so much scrutiny that excellence has to travel fast because there's such a demand for it.
Yeah, but you were very right. The one wrong project and like some, you know, bad impact on reputation goes even faster. It goes like a fire over a, you know, dry wood. So definitely we are trying to avoid any situations like that where we fail, right? That's
Yeah.
why, again, important communication with the client, important your own performance, your own planning, and preparation for the project and for the execution. That's
Well, I
key.
always say it's a good sign of a company that to come on a show like ours where it's an hour discussion, and I always say, because we've had people ask us to do like 5-minute, 10-minute interviews, and we say no, that's not what we do, because in 5 or 10 minutes you can pretty much say anything you want, and I won't have time to ask any follow-up questions. Whereas in
Yes.
this longer format, the where your belief system of how you approach the client, how you approach your employees, you know, how you handle innovation, it's going to come out in a full discussion just like anything else does. And I
That's
don't want to
correct.
jump in. I want to kind of go back to just the verticals you're in, and I want to clarify before I talk about some of your global scale stuff. Is so what verticals is DMC actually in within the mining contractor sector?
What do you mean by verticals?
Like which services are you providing? I know underground is definitely what you're known for, but you're doing quite a few other things. So I just wanted to sort of touch on those.
We do everything which is connected to underground construction. So we haven't been active on open pits. We could theoretically, but there is more in the area where we are based. There was always underground and deep underground with challenges in rock hardness and the water inflow and the so our engineering, because it starts everything with engineering, right? Is very well experienced in methodologies for hard rock mining. So it's both, it's shaft sinking, it's lateral development, it's rehabilitation of older mines, it's very efficient in this regular work. We have, I would say, the strength of DMC would be definitely very efficient in lateral developments, especially in hard rock conditions. Our advance rates were almost unbeatable. I dare to say, for competition. Will not prove it, but proud to compare if needed. In terms of vertical raises and shaft sinking, we use the mechanized methodologies, but also the regular drill and blast methodologies. And our team is equipped with all the tools to design from the very beginning, on the very early stage, going through building the methodologies, building the estimation, coming to the execution phase, and to closing of the project. And in the meantime, even having block models, calculating reserves, and suggesting mining methods for different types of ore bodies.
Okay, I wanted to clarify. So when you're talking about that first stage of methodology, how often are you developing the methodology as well, or how often is the operator or an engineering firm, a separate engineering firm, coming and saying, this is what we want to do, can you do it? Or is it a mixture of both that you're submitting on?
We take part on different bids, but I would say the methodology choice, it's almost always ours.
Always yours, yeah. Okay.
I would dare to say that, it comes from the client, that there are suggestions, and we see it, we judge it, and we say, okay, we can do that. It's actually good methodology that you have chosen. Or we can say, no, you're wrong, and we think you're wrong, we won't do it. So either you do it our way, or we just don't do it, find someone else. Or we build a methodology from scratch. And this is quite often the clients kind of want to have optionalities, and they just loosely suggest. They know about the project, they want when they want to be, they want the mass of rock that should be moved, and how the mine should look like at the end.
Right.
But there is a lot of engineering, especially even if you have like a scratch vision of what's supposed to be done, there is always a detailed engineering in our hand, and it's in-house. We used to go to external engineering firms in the past when the project was really large. So we couldn't scale up and scale down effectively to this project. So we were going outsourcing certain pieces, certain packages that were needed for this project. But the main design and then the lead on the project was always in our own engineering house, so in-house.
No. I want to talk a little bit, the next sort of stage of it is the sustainability. It's obviously a major discussion. So how does, I'll just leave it a very open-ended question, and then we can sort of, add things as we go through the conversation. what is on a sort of starting level, what is DMC's approach to all the sustainability side of things? And obviously there's a huge demand, a public demand, government, again, government, environmental, the mine operators themselves. So what's DMC's approach to it going into these contracts?
Yeah, it's again very valid point. Well, when you see DMC's development historically, it was totally different company in the past. And I was trying to analyze, like, well, what was actually done wrong in circumstances, what was done right. In terms of financial, DMC was quite well through entire time, but it's were ups and downs with the volume of work, with the efficiency of work, like different times. And a couple of years ago, like 6-7 years ago, DMC was really struggling. I think it was not adjusted to times that are coming, and it seems that that in the past the market was different. Simply, there was always a very huge focus on cost, and projects could have been delivered with certain really minimum oversight when you have skilled people who are just going, executing the work and finishing the work. It was really the most efficient method.
Right.
This was developing into the direction that it's today almost impossible. And it comes from various reasons, and it comes from stakeholders that you actually mentioned. For example, health and safety, right? The level of safety measures and safety restrictions, safety reporting, safety oversight, done also, like, transferred by the authorities, requires certain structure. You can't go now. You can be the safest way. Your operators can be still very safe. They could try to be safe, like regardless the provisions, but they can't go without having these provisions, right? So for these provisions, you have to build a structure. You have to have more health and safety managers that you had in the past. You have to have more provisions and rules that people know, are trained, understand, and follow, right? So you need crew around that. And this is your first point of sustainability that you mentioned, right? So if you want to have a sustainable company, you have to build up the supporting functions that are much bigger than they used to be in the past.
Right.
In contract management, right? In the past, this was a lot of handshake and people were, trusting each other, and contract was something in addition. You can't do that anymore, right? You have to have professional lawyers in-house that take care about all the provisions that you have in the contracts. Otherwise, you're not sustainable. One project problem or challenge can ruin like 10 or 20 previous earnings from your previous projects when it goes wrong. So in terms of risk mitigation, risk management, your needs like grew a lot as well, right? And it goes to other aspects as well, right? So you're retaining your people, right? It requires also certain investment. So today, I would say that the so-called GNAs, they grew quite high in our industry, I would say. Well, some maybe had them already bigger in the past because they applied the methods that we are changing and applying right now. They had them already for a while, right? So they had certain level of GNAs already applied. We had to increase them, but they are not really GNAs. They are an investment, actually. It's just investment in people, in processes, in your safety, in your safety statistics that are needed now everywhere for every project. And it's not only about just thinking about safety in terms of commercial, right? Like safety. It's really something that we as managers need now, and we want to commit it like honestly, not just talking about it, but
Right.
really practically apply safety. So it's actually even more than talking. It's more about even applying and executing the safety, right? So you really have to commit your time and your focus on it. Talk to managers and have a proper communication channels and have the proper structure that is executing it. Because rules will do nothing if they are not followed. But even if you follow the rules and you stop thinking, something will happen, right?
Yeah.
So you have to ensure that
Yes.
despite all of the rules, people still use their brains, their sense of reality all around, and just have the safety all the time in mind, right? So this
Mhm.
is constant work. It's
Yeah.
not something you can prescribe, write a policy, sign off, and it's done,
No, no. Yeah,
right?
it's a very powerful thing to say as well. You've said a couple things that are sort of stand out here, and that is that you need, yeah, you need to put things in place, but you can't, and you'll see companies do it where they're trying to put so many things in place. It's like it's almost like you put it a GPS in everybody's car, and all of a sudden nobody knows the directions anymore.
Yeah,
It's that kind of thing.
yeah.
And it's like
On like, you have so many safety measures all around with your, electronics, with your rules on the road, that like people start singing and like not watching the road, right? Like, and think about blue sky, right?
yeah,
So it's not like that. We can't afford it in mining, right? We have to be alerted all the time. Then we can really prevent, things to happen. And safety is one thing, but there are many components. There is this contractual safety component. There is this financial component, your financial planning, your debt accumulation and leasing facilities for your equipment, so proper asset management and planning.
right, yeah, yeah.
There are many things connected to sustainability of your company, right? So you have to think about them in advance and have a planning that is reaching out. Despite you have a shorter pipeline, you have to have a strategy. And I believe strategy is first, and really predicts your tactical movements, right? So
Mhm.
if in strategy, well, if I use this big word strategy, I don't really mean something that you sit down with your team and have a concept from brainstorming. Strategy in our industry is something that we really take very practically, right? So we know where we are, we know what we can do and how much we can stretch, what we can actually conquer, what is too much for us. And if you stay honest to this balance, then your strategy is right. And then I believe you should be consistent with the strategy. I mean, we are trying.
Mhm.
So we are not doing things that are against what we set up for the moment, because we believe it would be a distraction and just value distraction and not value creation. So to promote value creation and sustainability of the company, we have to take on things that we know that we deliver, that we know we do them right and in a high level of quality, and with adding up to our portfolio of projects and challenges one step at a time, right? Like, not to stretch ourselves to the level that we cannot really commit and deliver what we promised.
You've been here, you've been the CEO for 4 years, you said, right? Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
in
So
DMC.
when you came in, and you said there was some challenges that were happening, when you came in from day one, were you aware of like the things like safety and that the nature of contracts had changed? Personnel, the added personnel on the safety side that you have to have. Were
Mm.
you aware that those were some of the things that needed to be, and then you, of course, you talk about asset management and, debt and all these types of other things you obviously have to oversee. Did you have a clear understanding of your mandate coming in, or did you have to spend some time identifying what the challenges were?
Oh no, you need always time to identify the challenges. You can't know them on your first day, right? Some of them you can identify very quickly, and then when you're fast, you can can just make a clean cut. I was lucky to have in my transfer also a manager who was leading company before me, who led to certain successful developments, and it was an experienced guy who knew this business very well, and we had the opportunity to work together for a while before he retired. But I also believe, like, every manager before him was trying to get to this changing market conditions and a changing worldwide environment to the certain stage, right? So we're just continuing to adapt, to adjust, and it's just like the world is changing really fast. So we have to be also fast. Currently, one of the sustainability issues that I strongly believe is introducing processes that even less trained operators, maybe not. Let's call it like let team members can follow, and this requires certain IT and software implementations within the company that our industry didn't have in the past, right? Or not to extent that is actually needed today. And I believe this is the next evolution. I still wouldn't call it revolution, but it's an evolution for mining and mining construction industry to introduce more software-driven processes or software implemented processes that are easily extractable as a source of data that you can take for your management decisions, that you can observe the developments, and it's just this rule of thumb from an experienced manager will slowly go away. I think you will need more sophistication even in our industry, and experience, don't get me wrong, it's always right, you always need it. You have to understand how to read, like you have to learn reading before you start reading, and experience is a valuable thing, but the medium of control and the flow of data, this is changing, and we will use more and more software. We'll use more and more aggregated data to understand. To be competitive, we'll have to be more sophisticated. That's my expectations for coming future.
Well, we have a lot on our show. We've had a lot of these technologies and IT and artificial intelligence monitoring system, just crazy stuff that we've had on our show. So if you ever see any of them, I'm happy to make some introductions for you. Before we wrap up the interview, I wanted to ask, just because when I did the introduction, I said North America. But you operate at quite a scope, even globally. So just before we wrap up, I wanted to clarify that from my intro. Where are you operating? Where are you bidding on projects and sending people and hiring people from, and just sort of that whole global scope, if you will, of DMC?
Yes, it's actually a good question, because DMC, within its history, was almost on every continent. Like, so far I know, we weren't able to go to Australia, but despite of that, we were present in every corner of the world, right? We've been having some projects in Asia. We were in Europe. We were in both Americas. We even have drilling in Iceland, so or Greenland, was it? Somewhere very far north, right? But as I mentioned, this environment is changing, and you have to be very competitive. And if you don't want to take too much of risk, you have to deliver projects within the range of your skill set. And we were bidding in many projects in Europe. We've been actually in UK on a big project recently. We exit from this project like 2 years ago. But after that, we were bidding in certain projects and having invitations from certain European projects. and we actually started to decline them because the strategy was to develop very strong presence in both Americas and focus on this area. So South America and North America. We are also very strong in Chile right now, and we are bidding on projects in Mexico, Peru, and Colombia. But we are currently not bidding in Europe because we just don't have a physical presence there. We don't have a shop. We don't have a bunch of machines that we could throw to the project immediately, or even to start one. So it's one thing at a time. We will come to Europe. We have a plan for that, but it has to be something, again, the word sustainable. It has to be in a sustainable way where we bid on something smaller and simpler and build a presence. And on behalf of this presence and investing into our underground development machine, we can bid in something bigger.
Right.
If we bid on something bigger right now without proper presence in Europe, it brings the challenge of lead time of the whole equipment.
Right.
Currently, equipment manufacturing is a tough thing, but we already have a plan. We know that we will extend to different places. It's just going to be according to the plan and sustainable development, not some chaotic, jumping on the project that we have know nothing about, and just try to build things from scratch. This is not our way right now. We just don't want to do it.
Yeah, and has it yielded the results? Taking that approach, has it yielded the results you were hoping it would?
Yes. So from one side, our position in these both market and South and North America is solidifying, is strengthening. At the same time, we are gaining more and more stability, in terms of profits that we can redirect and invest in different places. So just one step at a time with the growth. For the growth in our business, you need a couple of conditions, and this is mainly, we come back to the priority and the biggest investment that contracting companies should do. It's your team, it's your people. So you can't clone them, right? Like your best people, they just don't grow on a tree, right? You just don't wait them to be ripe and take. You have to acquire the talent, you have to build the talent, and sometimes you can acquire the talent from the market, but it's actually tough because everyone who has really talented, loyal, and yeah, they are paying well, and they usually then they don't want to lose these people. There are opportunities. People switch from different several reasons, right? Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's some need for change, and we sometimes get really significantly talented people just by switching the companies. But we also believe very strong in growing talents within the company, and this is what we've been doing. So we prefer to promote someone that was within the company, was groomed, educated, and got experience within DMC. We kind of trust more these people. And you might say well, trust, you can change people. Trust is secondary. We don't believe that. We believe trust is very important. In our industry, you need to earn trust, you need to build trust, but when you have it, it's something that you should cherish. So we try to build on our own people. That's why maybe the development, has its limitations, but we are growing the crew, we are growing the team, and we definitely can take more work and more challenges in coming future, but in a, again, sustainable way, one step at a time.
Michal, you've there's You provided a lot of insight. We have guests that talk a lot about the technical side and engineers on that. But from a leadership perspective and just scope and understanding the industry, I don't. There's very few guests that have brought as much as you were brought today. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really enjoyed having you on. I hope it's not the last time. I hope none of the questions scared you off or anything like that.
No.
Because I would enjoy having this discussion again, especially as you know, you said you have plans for Europe and some of these projects that you're in the middle of right now. I'd love to sort of look back on some of them. So I hope you come back on the show. I really enjoyed having you on Mining Now.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, I must say, and it was really interesting conversation. By asking questions, you are actually opening also certain views and way of thinking. You know, maybe in a natural daily business, we just don't think about
Yeah.
things that we should. And by having this opportunity to exchange and tell you more about DMC, was also productive for myself, and hopefully can be transferred also to the company.
Well, I'm sure it will. Thank you very much, Michal.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching. I mean, that was just a very good discussion. I'm glad DMC came on. We're going to have lots of links to their website and where you can find out more about them. I mean, there's a ton of information on their website about specific projects and how they implementation. There's just so much on there. So just go check that out, and you can sort of pick what you want to learn more about DMC mining from. Thank you everybody for watching. Please keep suggesting guests. It's just been absolutely amazing. The amount of people from all over the world now that we're getting to come on, and by extension now, I mean, in South Africa and Australia, our audience is just exploding out there, because so many people are coming from around and people are trying to learn about all these different types of mines, types of operators, technologies that are getting implemented. So thank you very much. Please keep subscribing, suggesting questions, commenting. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.